Good evening, viewers. Welcome to yet another episode of our weekly edition on Fisheries and Water Resources Forum. In tonight's program, I have my permanent secretary, Dr. Bamba Banja. Dr. Banja, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
On my right, I have the Director of Fisheries, Famara S. Darboe. Famara, you're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
In tonight's program, we'll be talking about the fishing industry, activities related to the fishing industry. Permanent Secretary Bamba Banja, issues relating to operations of fishing processing plants. What can you tell you about your activities on that area?
Thank you very much, Mr. Njie. Good evening, viewers. It's always a pleasure for me to participate in this forum. But before I answer your question, I would want to tell viewers or inform viewers.
Both viewers and listeners on Radio Gambia.
Exactly, both viewers and listeners, that fisheries is a very important sector. We have got many policy objectives. First is to ensure that the management is sustainable, and then also to develop industrial fisheries. These are just few policy objectives, although we have many. But the reason why I want to talk about these two, it will become evident as we progress. Yes, we should have industrial fisheries. That means fishing trawlers and fish processing plants. Fish processing plants are very important. Fish processing is very important because you add value to the product. And adding value means you are creating employment. You are contributing to revenue generation, you see. You are also contributing to other social services. So essentially, therefore, it is important that we have industrial fisheries, particularly fish processing plants, you know, and they have to operate under strict hygiene and quality management regulations, you know.
Are those things in place?
Yes, they are in place because there are set rules and guidelines that an investor must follow in order to be engaged in fish processing and export. So, yes, the establishment has to fulfill certain hygiene and certain quality management requirements. So, yes. Without those, then it's going to be very difficult to allow the establishment to produce, process, and export fisheries products.
Permanent Secretary Bamba Banja, if I may interrupt there. During this time of the COVID-19, companies are operating. And do you think they are following rules and regulations given to them?
Thank you very much. Yes. Following the presidential proclamation and the ensuing emergency regulations, we wrote to all the fish processing plants, including fish meal plants, telling them that they should operate.
Why? Why do you think that they should operate?
Yes, because they are essential services.
Okay.
They should operate. In fact, even before COVID-19, these seafood processing establishments have been operating, but they have to follow hygienic guidelines. You know, before you go to the fish processing, before you enter, you have to go through the food dip, wash your hands and stuff like that. Cover your face, you know, use face masks. Yes.
How about those coming from outside?
They also go through the same regime, you know, because before you enter a food processing establishment anywhere in this world, you go through the right procedures in order not to contaminate people and not to also contaminate the product. So yes, even with or without COVID, they have to comply with hygiene and sanitary regulations.
Thank you very much, Permanent Secretary Bamba Banja, Director Famara as Darboe. Issues relating to fish scarcity in the country.
Thank you
How
very
do you
much.
address that?
Thank you very much.
And what is the cost of that?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Njie. Good evening, viewers and listeners. Mr. Njie, your question is very pertinent in the sense that it is providing me opportunity to express this, to discuss this issue, which is very commonly spoken countrywide at certain times. And also it provides opportunity for viewers and listeners to get the facts from us concerning the issue. Well, first of all, I would like to disagree that there is shortage of fish in the country because of the fact that a week will not pass without the landing sites experiencing surplus fish landings in the country. However, there are isolated weeks when we have low catches, which I will not attribute to scarcity of fish. This is clearly natural and characteristic of hunting. Remember, fishing is like wild hunting. You don't have, or we don't have, a direct relationship between trips going out for fishing and landing fish. It's exclusively a game of chance. So being that we have isolated weeks of low landings, which I may call bad weeks, but if we have to discuss about the reasons for those bad weeks, there we can bring out factors.
What are the reasons?
These factors include, apart from the chance of not landing fish after a fishing trip, fishing is dependent on the environmental factors at sea. We have a mechanism in place whereby, courtesy of the Department of Water Resources, whereby we have an SMS alert which indicates the conditions at sea. And these conditions include whether it is rough or whether it is calm, so that we advise the fishermen whether to go or not to go. If the sea is dangerously rough, we will not only advise, but we restrict fishermen from going out to sea. That is a factor that will, a week or day like that will not be a good day on the landing site.
If at all you advise fishermen not to go to the sea,
yes.
Well, there must be scarcity of fish.
Right. That's correct.
Yeah.
So at the level of our department and ministry, we have systematically been receiving fish in the form of 10% from foreign fishing vessels, which we inject into the market at appropriate days, on appropriate days and time. So this, we carefully do that in order to offset any shortage of on any particular day. So this is, but these are very rare days, of course. As we speak, there is a stockpile of fish for distribution countrywide from that 10%. And
you say countrywide,
yes.
But some are saying, with my investigation, some are saying that it's just for those in the provinces. How about those within Greater Banjul?
Well, if you look at the configuration of the River Gambia, you will see, and on the ocean, in fact, our fisheries waters, you will find that towards the west, towards the coast of the Gambia, you have more fishing, more water for fishing, or in other words, more fisheries waters, because the river is bigger towards here and we have the ocean here. Unlike the provinces or like the rural areas where you have the narrowing of the river, their fish is scarce. I would agree. There at certain times, more often, fish is scarce there. So this is why it's one of our policy objectives, which I will add to the policy objective that the Permanent Secretary has first mentioned. One of the policy objectives is to ensure that Gambians consume fish, and the fish will play its role in uplifting the nutritional status of the Gambians. So in that form, that being the case, we strive to distribute fish from the coast to the inland, and that, I may say, can also attribute to the bad days that I call to say is the cause of one of the causes of bad days or low fish landings, low fish availability along the coast.
Do you think the industry is giving services to the entire nation?
Yes, we strive to distribute fish as widely as possible in the country. We leave that with the private sector because, of course, government cannot do it all alone. And with the advent of new roads, or good roads in the country, our outreach in terms of fish distribution is as far as Koina, the end of the Gambia, and on both sides, you will experience that coastal fish products are available countrywide.
Thank you very much, Director Famara S. Darboe. Dr. Bamba Banja, coming back to you, issues relating to companies operating within Njie, Gunjur, Tujereng, why do you allow them to operate during this time of the COVID-19? Again, I ask you that question. I want more answers.
Thank you, Mr. Njie. I have said that we have a policy objective to develop industrial fisheries, meaning we have to have fish processing plants, seafood processing plants, including fish meal plants. Yes, we will allow them to operate. In fact, the Director of Fisheries has written to them, allowing them to operate, but with minimum staff.
Did you liaise with the line ministries responsible for health, justice, navy, you name it?
Yes.
Can you please explain?
Yes. In fact, before instructing the Director of Fisheries to write to the fish processing plants operating in this country, we consulted the Minister of Justice. The Ministry of Justice was consulted, and we were given the assurance that the emergency regulations really does not cover.
How about the health ministry?
Yes, as well. You see, they were consulted. One thing I want Gambians to understand, we must have these fish feed plants in Njie, in Katong, in Gunjur, and in Sanya. Every year, we carry out acoustic surveys to determine the level of pelagic resources which are used in these fish meal plants. Every year. And this year, just 3-4 months back, our scientists concluded the survey. We know the biomass of the pelagic resources. We know that this fish that is used to produce fish feed and fish oil here are jointly shared with other countries within the sub-region. So, and those countries, they have fish meal plants operating. Why should we not have fish meal plants operating in the Gambia when we have the resources, when the resources are jointly shared? What we should do as a sector, especially under the present circumstances where we are experiencing this pandemic, is to downscale, to reduce the workforce. If you are operating 40 fishermen a day. Now you reduce it to 20 fishermen. You reduce the number of workforce in the establishments. They have to operate. But if they don't go to the sea, how can we have fish?
But Dr. Banja, don't you think that the scarcity of fish is caused by a lot of boats, allowing a lot of boats operating within our sea?
The management of fisheries is dynamic. You have to understand that. The management is dynamic, and we also believe in co-management, where government will work with partners and other stakeholders to manage the resources. This is the focus of this government. We want to work with stakeholders to ensure that the resources are sustainably exploited in order to continue benefiting us. So yes, we have to regulate the boats, but we cannot do that alone. We have to work with the stakeholders at the landing sites. We have to cooperate. We have to agree on issues that will make sure that our operations go unhindered. So yes, boats are available, but they have to be regulated. Even without this COVID-19, it is important that in all the landing sites, there is some form of organization whereby if they feel that you have gotten many boats, they can regulate. Today, certain number of boats can go, and tomorrow, another number can go.
How do you monitor it?
Yeah, we have got our staff at the landing sites, but also working with the stakeholders. We have got in each of the landing sites, we have got organizations, post-harvest organizations, fishermen organizations, other organizations. We have to work with them to manage the resources at this community level.
Thank you very much. Director, how do you monitor illegal fishing in our sea?
Well, illegal fishing, as you know, it's illegal, and that
but how do you monitor it?
It cannot be accepted. Illegal fishing,
how do you monitor
nowhere it can be accepted. We have a fully fledged unit responsible for monitoring, control, and surveillance. This unit, in collaboration with other, with Gambian Navy, and of course, will monitor the vessels that are fishing illegally. There is this term IUU fishing, which is illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing, which worldwide is a menace. It's a worldwide menace, and Gambia is not an exception where it plagued, a country where it plagues. So therefore, we strengthen our monitoring, control, and surveillance. We also have collaboration with our neighboring countries in this area, because last year we conducted series of joint operations with Senegal Coast Guards, and in that process we have apprehended many fishing vessels, and they have been taken to justice for illegally fishing in our waters. So actually, those are the things. And Gambian Navy is also out at sea at times convenient, and also we have on each fishing vessel there is an observer trained to monitor fishing processes at sea, where he will be sending information to base, so that we know. Another thing, there's another mechanism whereby we can know the fishing processes at sea through what we call vessel monitoring system, and also automatic information identification system.
In addition to what the director is saying as to how we try to contain illegal fishing, last year, the Ministry of Fisheries, we have signed an MOU with an international NGO called Sea Shepherd. You know, this is an international NGO. They work with countries to combat illegal fishing in their waters. Yes, we signed an agreement with Sea Shepherd, and they were really helpful. That was the time when we made all those arrests. In fact, with Sea Shepherd, with their support and collaboration, together with the Fisheries Department and the Navy, we were able to make arrests up to 15 fishing vessels, you see. But IUU, or illegal fishing, is not only happening in the high seas here, but it's also happening in the rivers. So how do we combat that? That's also something very interesting, because we have fisheries organizations, we have communities, we have fishermen at the community levels. So we work with them and the Navy to combat IUU even in our rivers.
What do you normally do with those given license within the country, and they will go extra miles illegally fishing where they are not allowed?
Well, all licenses issued are given conditions. And,
but in some cases, recently, you've caught, a vessel. You've arrested a vessel fishing, in an area that they are not allowed.
Yes, that's what we call fishing in the wrong zone, and it's an infringement. The vessel was arrested by the Navy. The report was presented from both the Navy and the Fisheries Department. Consultative committee met over it, and the vessel, the company was fined $500,000, $500,000. And once they paid, brought us the receipt, we wrote to the Navy to authorize the Navy.
Where do they pay that money?
They go to the central bank and pay. We have the Fisheries Development Fund, and that's where all these payments are made, the licenses, the arrests, the fines. That's where they all go. They go to the central bank and pay in the Fisheries Development Fund. And yes, I'm happy to say this. From January 2019 to December 2019, we have generated in excess of $102 million from fishing licenses, from 10% landings, and from fines. This year alone, from January to middle of March 2020, we have generated in excess of over $35 million.
Thank you very much, Permanent Secretary Bamba. Director, what can you tell us about fish price hike in the country?
Well, fish price hike, that means the price of fish going up. These are also these also correspond to those days I call bad days, because it's an economic formula where you have low supply, the price will go high. The price and demand and price and supply have such a relationship. Of course, yes, there are usually price hikes in fish. If you want to look into factors that are responsible for those, actually you will find that fishing itself is an expensive operation, because operational costs for going out to sea is high, yet still high in the Gambia, and worldwide, because the world does not actually allow subsidies in fisheries right now. We discourage fish subsidies because it is going to directly impact on fish stocks. So therefore, governments don't usually subsidize fisheries. So if they are not subsidized, operational costs will remain high, like fuel and ice, all these, and even fishing materials are very expensive. So it's the consumer who will pay for all those costs. So the consumer we don't expect the consumer to say fish is very cheap in the country, because the operational cost on the fisherman is increasing. It's no fault of any government. It is a world agreement, WTO. I went to WTO in November, and there we agreed, and the world agreed that subsidies must be removed from fisheries.
Thank you very much. Now that, the time is against us, I think we have to shift on to the local language. Well, viewers, this is your weekly Fisheries and Water Resources Forum. I'm your host, Tamsir Njie. With me in the studios, Dr. Bamba. Can you elaborate in the local language so that, I mean, beneficiaries will be able to understand what we're talking about.
Assalamu alaikum mbooloo mi ñuy seetaan ak déglu suñ programme bi bu nga xam ne suñ host bi Maam Tamsir moo ko amee ñu ngi waxtaan fànn bu nga xam ne dafa am solo torop fisheries mooy affaire yi nappa affaire yi jën dafa am solo torop secteur la bu nga xam ne am na njëriñ torop te dina gàttal wax bi waaye dina wax si ñaari mbir mooy ñun dañu sas pour gis ne dëkk bi réew mi am na jën tey am na jën ëllëg am na jën gannaaw ëllëg ñaareel dañu sos pour ñu am industrial fisheries pour ñu am companies ñu nga xam ne dañoo toppatoo jën freeze ko pack ko export ko te si liggéey boobu tamit foog ñu am compagnie ñu nga xam ne factory ñu nga xam ne dañoo liggéey fish meal fish oil waaw te soo ko seetee ñun suñ géej gi jën buñ am at bu nekk dañ dee def gestu pour seet jën yu sew yi pelagics luñ dee wax pelagics yi yaay booy yi kobo yi makarel yi njuna yi ñu seet ñaata lañ am.
waaye docteur compagnie yi nga xam ne ñu ngi ci biir réew mi fii ñu ngay jàpp jën yu sew yooyu leen ndax loolu yàqul dara ci suñu géej gi.
waaw jën boobu dafa yaaxa di.
yéen lan ngeen cee def nag pour arrêter ko.
yes pour arrêter ko number one booti mbaal bi ñun dafa am booti mbaal bu nga xam ne dañ ko législate dañ ko recommend mbaal bi minimum message dafa war a nekk 40 millimeter minimum 40 millimeter message jën bu mu téyee nga xam ne boobu du juvenile fish mooy boobu du jën bu sew waaye dañoo use mbaal bu nga xam ne boot yi dañ sew te loolu loi bi daf ko tere.
waa compagnie yi nga xam ne nag ñu ngi operate ci jamono ji nga xam ne mbas mi dafa lëmbe àdduna bi maanaam jàngoro ju rëy ji lan nga cee wax lan a tax ñoom ñuy operate parce que coow li bari na ñu ne Fisheries Ministry ñoo leen alaaw pour ñu dem di nappa ba pare di alaaw nit ñi bari fa lool lan ngaa wax ci loolu.
ñun dégg la boobu dégg la man maa binda directeur ma ne ko mu binda compagnie ñu liggéey.
waaye jox ko nga ñi nga xam ne ministres yi nga xam ne ñoo amee wàllu wér-gu-yaram gi.
waaw jox
laaj nga leen
laajte naa Ministry of Justice laajte nañ health diisoo nañ ak ñoom parce que ñun ñooy liggéey together te liggéey bi dëgg la am nañ coronavirus bi pandémique fii waaye il faut nit yi tamit liggéey tuuti waxuñ le buñ liggéey de waaye su ñoo liggéey ñu make sure ne Ministry of Health sarta yuñ teddal ak World Health Organization ñu fonka yooyu.
jërëjëf docteur Bamba Banja Famara ila kuma labamo bayri wato ye njam faale.
nsimen laban fola mawliya dron wala munti ko gambianolu alinga ba demo ta na dokol kato niye na fankaso jube ba demo de malal mo gambia jang bolon kono gambiano siata je ari baada la jam ma fawla gambiano man sia adun ni nyawla sia ni lafta fengo kana bang waran ika fo men nyaw mankitale ifawna fango nyante tala batole yaji ifana nyante tala batole ita kela nyawti ita kela bati ni tala mu bati ibajala ko ay lafta la wato men e batala bad ni ila nyawtu luntangol bulu ni luntangol ya di wati o wati wato le ita basutla so oto ni ka fo ko nyaw mansia nyaw mansia da kuyata wo be dependal nyine ko be to da nyine bul ko ite be famo man ila nyamuto ite famo le mela nyaw.
Thank you very much Dr. Bamba Banja. Thank you very much Director of Fisheries Famara S. Darboe. Well viewers, until we come your way next week, I'm your host Mam Tamsir Njie. Ramadan Mubarak.